The Pittsburgh Penguins crushed the Chicago Blackhawks 5-0 on Tuesday night. And on today's episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast, Pat and I are going to recap that game, plus give you our picks for Warrior Helmet Wednesday right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes. You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Damp. You can follow him on all social media platforms at Synonym for Wet. And you can follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. Of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen/watch of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. So Tuesday was an awesome sports day for me. It all got started in the afternoon hours as Arsenal whooped Real Madrid in the first leg of the Champions League in North London by a score of 3-0. Declan Rice, you are my hero for those two free kicks. Absolute banger of goals. And it was just quite a scene. Pat, we know you're not a soccer guy, but it's a pretty big deal when Real Madrid loses like that because they won the Champions League last year. And this team has so much black magic, it's insane. Like, even though they're down 3-0 on aggregate going back to Madrid next Wednesday, there is still a chance they could win because they have black magic and because they have some of the best players on the planet. Like, it's going to be crazy with that game next week, but still awesome win for Arsenal. And then the Nationals crush the Dodgers. Always a great day when the Dodgers lose, especially when my Nationals beat them. And then the Penguins whoop the Blackhawks in the evening, 5-0. All got started when Sidney Crosby, of all people, of course, gets the opening goal. And it was such a great goal, followed up by kind of a mid-celebration. The way that he scored was so awesome, but you wouldn't know it based on the way Sid celebrated, Pat. He was kind of like, okay, I scored. All of his teammates were like, no, dude, look what you just did. Look what you just did. You got to celebrate it. He's just like, I'm good. He's so nonchalant about it.
At work, I have to go through a lot of Getty images for our website after games, and looking through the post celebration one, I think you can tell that Sid was surprised that pass by Raquel got to him and he was able to bury it, because you see the celebration in real time. Sid just kind of puts his arm up like, yeah, I scored. And then Rust and Raquel just jump him and mob him. And they're like, oh my God, what a goal. And then when you see the picture of him after that, as he's getting ready to go to the bench and give everybody a fist bump, he's got this massive grin on his face. And he kind of realizes, oh yeah, I just did do something pretty cool, didn't I?
100%. It was such a fun goal too. Got the scoring started. And then the second goal gets scored a little bit later. What a pass by Ville Koivunen, by the way. The fact that he was able to see Erik Karlsson there was sensational, by the way. Congrats to Erik Karlsson, his 200th career NHL goal. And that was one of the things I wanted to see for this game, Pat. I thought he was really rotten in that Sunday game against Chicago. I thought he was also really rotten in that Saturday game against Dallas. I wanted to see a response. I got it. And then some. I thought he was much better in this game. But that pass by Koivunen, man, and I even tweeted this after, I think the kids are ready for this. I think they're ready for the show. They have shown that in these few games. Hopefully, Rutger McGroarty's injury is not too serious. It was reported by a couple of the Penguin reporters that he was seen leaving the arena with a walking boot. So again, hopefully it's not too serious. Hopefully he can return at least for the Wilkes-Barre playoffs, or if he can play in one of these final three Penguins games before the Penguin season ends, before Wilkes-Barre has their playoffs. But I loved how Koivunen played. There was a shift also in the second period where the Penguins were just taking the Blackhawks to school in the offensive zone. Koivunen was a big part of it, was doing a great job cycling. He continues to be such a smart player when he's on the ice. And he also has great vision. That was very much on display on that Karlsson goal. I continue to be really impressed with this kid. I think he has just got it.
Yeah, I have nothing really. Of course, I have something to add. That would be disingenuous of me to say I have nothing to add, because of course I do. That's what we do. This is a podcast. We talk. And you're right, though. He has really shown a lot over this last week and a half. And it starts with the vision. You look at the way he's distributing the puck. This is a kid who sees the game extremely well. He has made multiple elite passes in his time here. And I know that sounds silly to talk about passes as elite, but He's setting up scoring chances. He's springing his line mates into positions where they get breakaways, partial breakaways, open looks. And when you're a young guy starting in the NHL, it's really easy to default to safety. It's really easy to take the high percentage play, whether that's gaining the red line and dumping it deep, or just holding on to it in the offensive zone and pushing it behind the net, or taking the high percentage pass to the person closest to you. He's not doing that. He's seeing the ice extremely well. He set up, I believe it was Erik Karlsson at one point. I can't remember if it was before or after his goal, but he set Karlsson up to the point where Karlsson didn't expect it. And Karlsson didn't have a ton of time to shoot, but had a wide open net and ended up missing just because a Blackhawks player was able to get a stick on it. But you could see Karlsson was impressed that Koivunen was able to feed that pass to him. And you look at the way the kid plays, if nothing else, if he doesn't become a productive top six forward, if he's just a guy on the roster, if nothing else, he will be a valuable asset on a top power play because he can distribute the puck extremely well, and that is going to lead to a lot of chances.
100%. And you were seeing that on display last night on the power play too. He just seems like such a seamless fit on that unit. He seems like such a seamless fit with Evgeny Malkin's line as well. He was getting some top line minutes with Sidney Crosby after McGroarty got a bit banged up, and he didn't look out of place there either. I continue to be really impressed with the way he plays. Kris Letang, congratulations to him. He got back on the score sheet last night. And then Kevin Hayes, Pat, good for him. He's been struggling a little bit, I think, these last few weeks, in my opinion, just hasn't really been seeing the ice that well. I've kind of gone at the coaching staff a little bit at times just for having him on the top power play when it was struggling. But last night against Chicago, thought that was one of his better games. Nice to see him get rewarded with 2 goals. But one more thing I did want to point out, this Chicago team stinks, man. Like, I don't even think the Penguins played that well last night, but Chicago is just that bad. And I know some people are going to be like, well, the Penguins just lost to them on Sunday. Yeah, I know they did, but the Penguins really didn't show up for a large part of that game. I even said they kind of maybe played to a little bit of a push in the first 2 periods, and then they took the entire third period off, and then Chicago won the game. This game, Chicago looked lifeless throughout. Even the Penguins, it didn't look like they were doing that much, but they were still dominating them because Chicago is that bad. And I don't think Connor Bedard really did that much in this game. He still needs quite a bit of help. And Tristan Jarry could have played another 100 minutes. I don't think he would have given up a goal. He was barely tested in that game.
No, you do have to give credit to Tristan Jarry and I know the comments are going to get mad at me for saying this. You're probably going to get mad at me for saying this. So I'll preface it by saying this. I'm not in on Tristan Jarry. I don't think he's fixed. I don't think that he's suddenly going to become the starting goalie for the Pittsburgh Penguins in the near or long term. But you have to give him credit for this season as a whole, because there were so many moments where he very easily could have just given up. He could have just accepted his lot in life as a backup goalie who's going to be a castaway and an afterthought. And he's continued to battle. He's continued to pick himself up off the mat. Twice he's been sent to Wilkes-Barre. And yeah, there's been struggles when he's come back. I'm not denying that there haven't been bad games and he hasn't not struggled. And then there have been games since his second recalling from Wilkes-Barre where he's played like an absolute liability. But it fits into the broader narrative about this team this season, and it's that they battle and they fight and they keep going until the last minute. Because Tristan Jarry, again, could have very easily just given up on this year, given up on the Penguins, and given up on his time as a Penguin, and he hasn't done that. He has continued to battle. He's continued to try to give himself a chance and make quality starts. And yeah, last night, that's a bad Chicago team. The Penguins clearly showed us after last night that they came off an emotional win over a very good Dallas Stars team on Saturday and went into Chicago a little bit drained, a little bit tired, and a little bit disinterested, and that led to the loss. And then last night, the Penguins were like, oh, right, this is a team we can beat. This is a team that we are better than. And they took full advantage of it. So you have to give him credit for the shutout. You have to give him credit for continuing to battle, because there are a lot of goaltenders and a lot of players, honestly, in pro sports that in that situation would pout, would complain, would throw in the towel. And again, it's not me saying he's fixed. It's not me saying he's good again. None of that. It's just, I have to give him credit for continuing to push, because it would be so easy for him to have just quit.
Well, I'm not going to give him credit for the season in general. He's been pretty bad for the majority of this season, if I do say so myself. Is it nice that he is playing a bit better down the stretch here, even though they are eliminated? Sure, it's nice seeing that goalie come out a little bit, but I'm not going to give him credit for the season. I'll disagree with you on that and be, well, as nice as I can about it, because, well, I love you. But again, like, it's Chicago. Like, he got his second shutout. And it's funny, 2 shutouts now in the last 9 days. It really is all or nothing with Tristan Jarry. You get either really good starts at this point in his career, or you get really bad starts. I do not think he is the goaltender of the future. I still think you need to find any and every way possible to get him off the team during the summer, because I do not trust him for another full season. I think it would be kind of ridiculous if you continue to be loyal to him even after this stretch. Because again, yeah, it's cool seeing the good play come out, but you're not going to get that type of play for an entire season. And we've seen them reach their breaking point multiple times this season. So I think that trust has been broken, but I'm not going to sit here and say that this has been a success for him all season. I think that's a little much for me, Pat, if I do say so myself. But I think that's going to do it for this first segment of today's episode. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to talk about the kids a little bit more and a couple other things regarding this game before ending the show with our picks for Warrior Helmet Wednesday. But before we get to that, we got to tell you all about our first sponsor, and that is Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for your unsaturated fats to help you keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It is the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they are always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Damp. And Pat, we do have to discuss this a little bit before we talk about the kids a little bit more. The Masterton nominees were announced today, and the Penguins nominee for this one is Boko Imama. Congratulations to him. I think this is very well deserved with the way that he has played for the Penguins this year. You can tell how much his teammates love him, not just on the bench, but in the locker room. You can tell how much the star players have appreciated him kind of coming to their defense a little bit, even though I think part of that is a bit overrated in today's game. You can tell how much the star players and how much the other really good players on this team, and frankly, honestly, the entire team, I should say, really appreciates that. And, you know, the goal that he scored earlier this year was such an amazing celebration. He didn't even know that he scored. And it was also just a banger of a shot. Remember, this is awarded to the player who best exemplifies qualities of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. And I think Boko Imama, really strong choice here by the Penguins.
Agreed. In the last part of the definition of the award, dedication to hockey, I think is probably the reason why that he is the nominee. Yeah. He is I don't want to say the last of a dying breed, because we're seeing a change in the way the game is played. I think with, you know, the Tkachuk brothers and a few other players who have shown that there doesn't need to be a false choice between being a skilled player and being tough. I think we're going to really see a new age of power forward here in the next few years. But you look at the way he plays the game, you look at what he brings to the table, and he continues to push. He continues to be a player who ingratiates himself into locker rooms and into team cultures. And again, this is a guy who very easily could, go play in Europe and be a dominant player over there, because let's be honest, even though he is a bit of an old school tough guy, you don't make it to the NHL and the AHL by accident. You don't make it there anymore just because you're big and tough. You have to be very good at the sport. So it would be very easy for him to head overseas and dominate in a European league because he's a cast off from the NHL's ranks. And he hasn't done that. He's continued to battle. He's continued to work. And I do think as the Penguins continue this rebuild, retool on the fly, he's going to be part of it until they get to the point where they're contending again. He'll be a guy that he's a good locker room presence. He brings a lot of energy. By all accounts, he's a very positive guy, very, very good. If for no other way to describe it, very good vibes guy. And if there's one thing the Penguins need right now, it's vibes.
We'll have to see if he makes the team next year, whether that's a 12th forward, 13th forward, 14th forward, or if he starts in Wilkes-Barre. But still, at the very least, he deserves a nominee for this, and he's at least been fun to watch. It's a lot of me being a fan of him. It's based on vibes. Like, I love watching him do his thing on the ice. Yeah, his underlying numbers are not pretty, Pat. I mean, I've looked at them and I have them in my notes here. Just not good in terms of expected goals, shot attempts per 60, scoring chances. But you know what? He's a ball to watch on the ice, and
yeah, and that's
why I've just been a fan of watching.
That's the biggest thing. Like, we got to approach it from that mentality,
right?
Is that this isn't a contending team,
no.
And mix it with us saying, hey, it's fine if you lose, just don't give up, actually battle and play hard. And then you mix it with, this is a guy who plays hard. He battles, he works his butt off. And for now, why not? No harm in having him right now.
Right. No, 100%. And again, I am very glad that he was the nominee for this award. A couple other things during this segment before we get to Warrior Helmet Wednesday to end the show. Pat, there's a couple injuries that the Penguins are dealing with right now. Really sucks that Philip Tomasino is out with a concussion. I felt like I wanted to see more from him down the stretch, and it felt like we were maybe getting closer to that until he got concussed. And I hope that's not the end of his season, though there's only 3 games left at this point, so it very well could be. It just stinks that he was having a little bit of a tough end of the season. He wasn't producing as much as he was earlier on, because I wanted to see him keep getting some chances in the top 6, at least, on a line with one of the kids, McGroarty or Koivunen. If I had it my way, it would be with Evgeny Malkin and Koivunen. I think that would be a ton of fun. But, you also, one of Brian Rust or Rickard Rakell has to be sent down in that scenario. So it's a tough call. I get why they were putting Tomasino on the third line, but it would have been nice seeing him get more chances in the top 6, at least to end the season before the concussion. Hopefully, though, he's able to get 100% healthy whenever. And then Blake Lizotte, that's why he was out last night. He's also a bit banged up. That's why you saw Matt Nieto come back up from Wilkes-Barre. Hopefully everything is okay with him as well, and he can come back for one of these final 3 games as well. And then for McGroarty, again, man, just hope that this isn't too serious. I felt like last night was his least effective game, but he was still good, still getting chances, still skating well, still outthinking his opponents on the ice. He continued to have also pretty solid vision. I don't think it was as good as Koivunen's, especially on that pass to Karlsson for the goal, but he was still playing fairly well last night. So I hope that also is not a serious injury, because I still want to see more of him at the NHL level to end the season. But I also think the Penguins, they might be a bit cautious with him here, and expectedly so, because they want him playing in the Wilkes-Barre playoffs kind of as like a final stint in the AHL before coming up to the Penguins full time.
You want him to play that meaningful hockey this spring, with Wilkes-Barre. So even if it's an 80-20 thing, you're going to take the 20 and let him recover, because you're not, obviously there's 3 games left. You're not playing for anything in those 3 games. And he, like Koivunen, has very much proved that he belongs. And let's even talk about how he gets hurt. He's on the penalty kill. He blocks a shot and he shows zero fear to do it. And given his pedigree, given the way this organization feels about him, it would have been very easy for him to not block a shot, to think I'm above doing that. And he didn't. He threw his body in front of it and sacrificed for the team. And that's an admirable thing for a young player to do, especially a young player of his caliber and his status. So I have to give him props for that. So I agree. I think at the end of the day, as much as you would like to see him in these final 3 games, I think we've seen enough to know that if he has a good offseason, has a good training camp, he's not going back to Wilkes-Barre to start next season. As for Tomasino, it's something I said earlier in the week. I think at this point, they know what they have in him and they like what they have in him.
I'm just curious to see what the contract that he gets, RFA this offseason, how much is he going to command after this season? I think that's the main thing I'm curious about.
I doubt it's going to be a lot just because he's close to his career high in goals, which is only 10. And if they like what they have in him, and like you said, you bring up Koivunen, you bring up McGroarty, you really want to see what you have in those two. You want to give them that audition to prove that they belong at the NHL level. And when you feel like you know what you have in Tomasino, you're probably going to put him in less advantageous situations. But it's not them saying, we don't believe in you anymore. It's them saying, listen, we got plans for you in the long term. Go out, try to play your best in a role that you're maybe not suited for. But when we get to next season, you're going to have a better defined role. And you mix that with the amount of draft picks they have, some of the prospects that they have, who they hope will be ready either early next year or mid next year. He'll be in a better situation where he's not going to be on a third or fourth line that is just called upon to be a third or fourth line. They might actually get to be a bit of a more effective offensive line because there'll be better talent around him. So I do think really he was just a victim of a numbers game, and that kind of led to some inconsistencies down the stretch. Obviously, he's got to prove me wrong. And if he's in a different role next year, he's got to be better. But I think he showed enough from the time when he became a Penguin to now that he belongs here and he's going to be a good piece moving forward.
Yeah, he'll be a top 9 forward next year, assuming that they will bring him back. It's funny, they don't have, Pat, too many free agents after this season. When you look at Puckpedia, of course, I mean, Connor Dewar, of course, we'll have to see if they bring him back. I'm still on the fence a little bit right now, but I think I'm starting to potentially see enough where you could bring him back in a fourth line role for next year. Tomasino, 100% yes, I am bringing him back. Matt Nieto, no thanks. Boko Imama, remember, he also is a free agent, so what we do have to see if he comes back. And then Matt Grzelcyk, Connor Timmins, P.O. Joseph. I think Connor Timmins for sure should come back next season. We'll do more of a deep dive into all the free agents once the season comes to an end next week and in the coming weeks. But I do think, like, when you look at the highest priority of players to bring back that are RFAs or UFAs, I think Tomasino is number one on that list. Him and Timmins probably 1 and 2 on that list, but I would put Tomasino a bit higher up. And I don't really think that contract is going to be that difficult to hammer out. Probably going to be a short-term deal if I had to guess, but I agree with you as a whole. And I think that'll do it for this second segment. Coming up to end the show, it's Wednesday. Yins know what that means. It's time for Warrior Helmet Wednesday, giving out our team MVP award for the last week. And there are some really good candidates for this last week. Sidney Crosby, Rickard Rakell, Brian Rust, they've gotten a lot of them. They are very good candidates for this. But the kids, Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen, are also some fairly good candidates as well. And Pat, this is the second to last Warrior Helmet Wednesday of the season. This thing flew by. So next week, we'll have to tally up to see who got the most Warrior Helmet Wednesdays of the season. But before we get to that, we have to tell you all about a message from Bear Mattress.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bear Mattress. Bear Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bear Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid Mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bear Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bear Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to bearmattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Damp. And Pat, there are, as I said, a lot of good candidates for this week's Warrior helmet, but you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to split this helmet, give one half to Ville Koivunen and one half to McGroarty. They have given this team so much energy, so much enthusiasm since coming up about a week and a half ago, and they have outplayed some fairly good teams during that stretch. They outplayed the Senators, who clinched their playoff spot last night. Congratulations to Ottawa, by the way. It's been almost a decade since they last made the playoffs, and so it'll be nice seeing them back in this year. They outplayed the Blues, even though they lost that game. I still felt they were the better team. And then they brutally outplayed the Dallas Stars, who are a pretty big meme right now. By the way, they blew a 5-2 lead to the Vancouver Canucks with a minute left. That is crazy, by the way. I didn't even think that was possible until I woke up and saw that last night, Pat.
Hey, Hunter, you remember yesterday when I said that there should be some flashing red lights for Dallas fans, and you kind of gave me a weird look? Starting to feel a little vindicated about that right about now.
Well, that one was bad. I will give you that. I want to see how the Stars respond down the stretch, and I want to see how they play in the playoffs, probably against Colorado. And speaking of Colorado, Gabe Landeskog has just been loaned to their AHL team, so I think we're going to get a big comeback here with Landeskog, and that's going to be such an insane scene. It's been almost 3 years since he played. He's been coming back from too many big injuries, and I am so happy for him, by the way, if he can make it all the way back. But anyways, getting back to the topic at hand. Half to Ville Koivunen, half to McGroarty. McGroarty gets his first NHL goal against St. Louis Blues. What a goal, by the way, right around the net to tie it late in the third period. By the way, Ville Koivunen got the assist on that. And Koivunen, his vision has been really on display since coming up. And Pat, you look at his numbers, 3 assists, 3 points in 5 games. McGroarty, he also has, 3 points in 8 games, 1 goal, 2 assists. But they have shown to me that they are ready for the NHL. They're going to go back to the AHL for the Wilkes-Barre playoffs, and they're going to try and help this team win a Calder Cup. But as I said earlier on, I think that is going to be the last time you see these two kids in the AHL. I think, even though it's been a small sample for both, I think they have shown that they are ready for this league. It's not too big for them, especially, the moment is not too big for them. They've both made some outstanding plays, and I think the Penguins have something in these two kids. So they get my vote for the Warrior helmet this week.
Me as well. That's who I'm going with. 3 points each over the last week, and just away from them being able to put up a couple points in a few games over the last week, they have just proven that they belong. We kind of cautioned everybody after their first appearance that, hey, listen, there's going to be an adrenaline rush for these guys. They're probably going to have a good debut. And for McGroarty, it's his return. But now we're fully into, they have each played in the last 5 games. And all 5 games, it has been the same story. And while that, yes, is a smaller sample size, it's a little bit easier to glean some trends in the way they play over a 5-game sample. They've continued to show the same things each and every game. Koivunen, incredible vision. He distributes the puck really well. Rutger McGroarty, night and day from when he started in the NHL at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, there was, understandably, although I believed it to be a little bit reactionary at the time, that, oh no, did they make the right decision acquiring this kid? Is he going to really become a productive NHLer? But he really stuck with it. And yeah, he struggled in the AHL as well when he started. But as we've discussed on this show, as a lot of experts have said, he was a victim of bad luck in the AHL. He was doing everything right. The pucks just weren't going in. Then the pucks started going in. You put that on top of everybody was worried about his skating, and rightfully so. This entire year in the AHL, you can tell the main thing he has been working on is skating. And while he's still got improvements to make, he still needs to get a little bit faster. His first step has to improve, but his skating is night and day better from when we started this season to where we are now. And between all of that and just the energy that they have brought to the team in these 5 games has been palatable. And I think at this point, you are not going to see them back in the AHL after the Calder Cup playoffs.
And that's the thing. Like, you can tell a lot of the other veteran players on this team, they have fed off of that energy, off of that enthusiasm. They have loved seeing these kids just provide this team a little bit of a spark. And yeah, I know, people, their season was practically over when they came up, but they have still provided a nice little spark to this team down the stretch. And I know some people are going to ask Pat, like, why weren't they up sooner? Why didn't they bring these guys up in January, February? But this is how development works. Like, you want to develop these guys properly so that they are ready for this league when they come up. And I can't give enough credit to the Wilkes-Barre staff for the way they have developed both of these kids down there throughout the season. They deserve all the credit in the world. But I think that's going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to / watch this one. Pat and I will be back with another show for you all on Thursday to discuss the latest news surrounding the Penguins. And then Friday, we'll preview the final meeting of the season against the New Jersey Devils. And then next week, people, time's up. The season will be over. We'll recap that game against Boston. And then we'll get you all set for game 82 against the Washington Capitals. And then after that, it's full off-season time. We got season reviews, moves they could make, playoff talk, all that good stuff. We're not going anywhere until probably mid-July, until we put the show down to 3 days a week and all that good stuff. But that's well into the future at this point. But for Patrick Damp, I'm Hunter Hodes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll be back on Thursday.